The online retailer says it sells just about everything you can think of at prices 50%, even up to 75% off than what you would pay on other sites.
And before I get started to tell you a little bit more about it, if you are doing anything, I need you to stop right now and listen to this.
You can buy a swimsuit on Temu for $6, a winter jacket for $9, a full outfit, head to toe, shoes included, for less than the price of a sandwich at the airport. And if you've ever scrolled through the app, you've probably had the same thought everyone else has. How is this even possible? Who is making a profit on a $3 shirt? The answer is, right now, nobody is. And the real question isn't how Temu sells clothes so cheap. It's who's paying the difference. To understand that, you have to understand a company most Americans had never heard of until 2 years ago, and the 100-year-old loophole that made the whole thing work. Temu launched in the United States in September 2022. Within a year, it had over 77 million monthly active users. By 2024, it was the most downloaded app in America, ahead of Instagram, ahead of TikTok, ahead of Amazon. The company spent $3 billion on advertising that year alone. It ran 6 ads during the Super Bowl at roughly $7 million per 30-second spot. The jingle told you to shop like a billionaire, and millions of people did. But Temu isn't really a store. It doesn't make anything. It doesn't design anything. It's a platform owned by a Chinese company called PDD Holdings, and what it actually does is connect you directly to the factory floor. Here's how traditional retail works. A factory in Guangzhou makes a pair of jeans for about $10. That factory sells them to a distributor, who sells them to a brand, who ships them to a warehouse in the United States, who distributes them to a retailer, who marks them up and puts them on a shelf. By the time you're holding those jeans, 4 or 5 middlemen have each taken their cut. You're paying $60. The factory still got 10. Temu rips out every step in between. The factory lists the jeans directly on the app. Temu handles the marketing, the listing, and the logistics. But here's the catch. The factory doesn't set the price. Temu does. And Temu's entire strategy is to pick the cheapest supplier in the room. The way the selection process reportedly works is brutal. Thousands of manufacturers apply to sell on the platform. Temu screens them, compares samples, and selects the lowest bidder. If the factory's cost on a pair of jeans is $10, Temu might negotiate them down to $10.50. Then Temu lists them for $12. The factory's profit margin? 50 cents, sometimes less. And Temu itself often loses money on the transaction. Reports suggest the company was losing an average of $30 on every package it shipped to the United States. That sounds like a terrible business. But Temu isn't trying to make money right now. It's trying to win the market. The strategy is called loss leading, and it's not new. Costco does it with the $1.50 hot dog combo. But Costco offsets those losses with high-margin products elsewhere in the store. Temu doesn't have that safety net. It's subsidized almost entirely by its parent company, PDD Holdings, which pulled in nearly $35 billion in revenue in 2023, mostly from its massive Chinese marketplace, Pinduoduo. So that's part of the equation: razor-thin supplier margins and a parent company willing to burn cash to dominate a new market. But there's another piece that, until recently, made the whole model possible. A loophole in American trade law that's been on the books since 1930. It's called the de minimis exemption, and it works like this. Any package shipped into the United States worth less than $800 is exempt from customs duties. No tariffs, no import fees, minimal inspection. For decades, it was a footnote in trade policy. Nobody thought much about it because the volume was small. In 2015, about 140 million packages entered the country under de minimis. By 2024, that number was 1.36 billion. And according to a congressional investigation, Temu and its competitor Shine were responsible for more than 30% of all de minimis shipments entering the United States. Nearly half of all de minimis packages from China came from those two companies. Think about what that means. Traditional retailers like Gap and H&M import their products in bulk shipments. Those shipments go through customs. They pay tariffs. In 2022 alone, Gap paid $700 million in import duties. H&M paid $205 million. Meanwhile, Temu was shipping millions of individual packages directly to American doorsteps and paying nothing. And that's not a small advantage. That's a completely different game. But all of this still raises the question you probably came here for. Who's actually making these clothes, and what does that look like? The answer is tens of thousands of small factories, mostly in southern China's Guangdong province, and the working conditions inside those factories have drawn serious scrutiny. Investigations have found garment workers pulling 14 to 16-hour days, 7 days a week. During peak season, shifts can stretch past 2 or 3 in the morning. In some factories connected to Temu's parent company, workers reportedly logged 380 hours per month, well above China's legal limits. In comparable fast fashion supply chains, undercover footage has shown workers earning a base salary of about $20 a day, with deductions of up to $14 for mistakes in stitching. In some cases, workers had no base pay at all and were paid a few cents per garment. And then there's the Xinjiang question. Both Temu and Shein have been accused by a US congressional committee of using cotton sourced from the Xinjiang region, where the US government has documented the forced labor of over 1 million Uyghur Muslims. The Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act was designed to block those products from entering the country. But because de minimis packages faced minimal customs inspection, critics say the law was essentially unenforceable for companies like Temu. When Congress asked Temu directly whether it prohibits products made with Xinjiang cotton, the company reportedly declined to commit to that restriction. On the 2024 Ethical Fashion Report, which scores 120 major fashion brands on worker protections and supply chain transparency, Temu scored a 0. Not low, 0 out of 100. So to recap, you're getting a $6 swimsuit because a factory in China is operating on margins of pennies, because workers in that factory may be sewing for 16 hours straight, because a 90-year-old customs rule meant those products could enter the country without tariffs or meaningful inspection, and because a Chinese tech conglomerate was willing to lose billions of dollars to put the app on your phone. Now, here's what's changing. In 2025, the Trump administration moved to close the de minimis loophole entirely. As of late August, all products entering the United States are now subject to duties and tariffs based on their country of origin, regardless of value. That means the free ride is over. Temu has already raised prices for US customers. Its daily active users in America dropped over 50% between March and May of 2025. The company has started bulk shipping to US-based warehouses instead of sending individual packages from China, fundamentally changing the model that made it so cheap in the first place. Whether Temu survives this shift or goes the way of Wish.com, the discount shopping app that collapsed after it stopped subsidizing prices, is an open question. But the larger point isn't really about one app. It's about what cheap actually means. Every time you see a price that seems impossible, there's a system behind it making that number work. Someone is absorbing the cost. Sometimes it's a tech company burning investor cash. Sometimes it's a trade loophole that lets products skip the rules everyone else follows. And sometimes it's a person in a factory working a 16-hour shift for pennies per garment. The price tag on that $3 shirt was never the real price. It was just the part you could see. Word count 1,350,